Line P is defined by 5x plus 6y equals 30. Line Q is perpendicular to line P in the xy plane. What is the slope of line P? Okay, so we know that if two lines in a xy plane are perpendicular, then that means their slopes equal to -1. And for now, let's change this equation into y, oh sorry, y equals mx plus b. So let's do that. 5x plus 6y equals 30. Subtract 5x on both sides. 6y equals to minus 5x plus 30. Divide 6 on both sides. Y equals to minus 5 over 6x plus 5. Okay, so we know that the slope for line, wait, no. So we know the slope for line P would be minus 5 over 6. And so we know that, the slopes times each other would equal to -1. So we would have to do minus 5 over 6 times question mark equals to -1 times 6 on both sides. We get minus 5 times question mark equals to -6 divided by -5 minus 5. X is equal to 6 over 5. So if we look at our thing, it would be 6, 5. A sphere is melted to form a cone that has the same radius as the sphere. What is the ratio of its radius to its height? So we know the volume of a cone is 1 over 3 pi r squared h, and the volume of a sphere is 4 over 3 pi r cubed. So since we know they have the same radius, we can equate the volumes together. So we can do 1 over 3 is 1 over 3 pi r squared h is equal to 4 over 3 pi r cubed. And it looks like we can divide 4 over 3 pi r squared on both sides. So let's do that. Pi r squared 1 over 3 pi r squared. So here we would just get h here. So 4 over 3. Since it's divided by 1 over 3, we could just multiply by 3 over 1, and that would get us to 12 over 3, which is equal to 4. So it'd be 4, that gets crossed out, that's good. So it'd be, it'd be equal to 4r. Okay, so h is equal to 4r. Let's divide 4 on both sides. So we get 1 over 4 is equal to r. So it'd be 1 ratio 4. Okay, 1 ratio 4. And if we look at our answer choices, it looks like A is correct. Right triangles A, B, C, and X, Y, Z are similar, where A and B correspond to X and Y. Respectively, angle B has a measure of 44 degrees. What is the measure of angle Y in degrees? So if B corresponds to Y and we know that B is equal to 44 degrees, the measure of Y would also equal to 44 degrees. To show you as perspective, let's say ABC is congruent to X, Y, z if a is congruent to x, then b is congruent to y, and c is congruent to z. We could also do it for segments, but this question doesn't really go into it. So for now, the answer is 44 degrees. Cone A has a radius of 2a, a height of 2b, and cone B has a radius of 4a, a height of b, where a and b are positive constants. The volume of cone B is how much times the volume of cone A? Okay, so first let's find the volumes. Here's a reference in case you need it. So cone A would be 1/3 pi r, which is 2a squared, and then h, which is 2b. So let's simplify that. It'd be 1/3 pi 4a squared 2b 1/3 pi times 4 with 2, 8a squared b, and we can times 8 with 1/3, so it'd be 8/3 pi a squared b squared. Now let's find cone B. So that'd be 1/3 pi, the radius is 4a, that'd be squared, and then the height is b. We can simplify that. 16a squared b. We can times 16 with 1/3, that'd be 16/3 pi a squared b. And now we see that we have 8/3 pi a squared b and 16/3 for cone B. So we're looking for the volume of cone B. So we can just find that out by doing 16/3 divided by 8/3, and that'd be 16/3 times 3/8. So what's 16 times 3? That would be 48, and 3 times 8 would be 24. So this would equal to 2. So the numeric answer would equal 2. In a triangle ABC, the measure of angle A is pi/4 radians, and the measure of angle B is pi/2 radians. What is the measure of tan C? Okay, so we know that angle A plus angle B plus angle C would equal to pi, because that's 180 degrees in any given triangle. So since we already have two of the angles, let's just plug that in and find what the other one would be. So it would be 4 plus question mark equals to pi. So what we could do is we could make this into 2 pi/4, and that plus 3 pi would equal, no, that plus pi would equal to 3 pi/4. So 3 pi/4 plus angle C is equal to pi. Subtract 3 pi/4 on both sides over 4. Okay, so pi minus 3 pi/4, so we can times pi by 4, so that'd be 4 pi/4 and minus 3 pi/4, that would equal to pi over 4. So let's write that out, is equal to angle C. So this is what angle C equals, and what it's asking for, it's asking for the tan of C. So we could find that out by plugging this in, and what would tan of pi over 4 be? Okay, so we know that since it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the two legs would be congruent. So that means since it's opposite over adjacent, SOHCAHTOA, we would do 1, it would be 1 over 1. So the answer would equal to 1. So let's put that right there, and 1 is gonna be our answer. For the right triangle shown, sin B equals 1/2. What is the possible value of C? Okay, so since sin of B is 1/2, that means that what is so opposite over hypotenuse? So the opposite would be B, so that's 1 over the hypotenuse, which is A, so this would be 2. And we know from the Pythagorean theorem, for right angles a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but for here c squared plus b squared equals a squared, we can start plugging it in. So let me just write it down. B squared equals a squared. We don't know what c squared is. We know b squared is 1 over 2, and we know that a squared would be 2 squared. So now we can subtract 1 squared from both sides. That'd be c squared is equal to 2 squared minus 1 squared. So to remove the squared, we'd have to square root both sides. So c would equal to square root. What's 2 times 2? 4. What's 1 times 1? 1. So this would be the answer to c, but let's just do the subtraction of the square root. C would equal to square root 3, and that would be B. The perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 162 centimeters. The height of this triangle is C over square root 3 centimeters, where C is a constant. What is the value of C? Okay, so since we know that the triangle is equilateral and the perimeter is 162 centimeters, we can do 162 centimeters divided by how much sides there are in a triangle, which is 3. And the answer we will get is 54. So let me draw out an equilateral triangle. Each side would be 54. So we also know that the height of this triangle is c over square root 3. So we can draw that in over square root 3. And it's asking us what is the value of c. Okay, so as we see, since we have the height, we can make this big triangle into 2 small triangles, and we could take one of these triangles and make it into, we could use the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and we could put that in. So this would be b squared, this will be c squared, which is 54 squared, and a squared would be 54 divided by 2, since this whole segment is 52 and we have to divide it into just half. So what's 54 divided by 2? That'd be 27 squared. And now we can solve. So what's 27 times 27? That'd be 729 plus b squared equals to 54 times 54, which is 2916. subtract 729 from both sides, we'll get b squared is equal to we get 2187, and we can square root these two equations to get 7 to get b is equal to around 46.77. So that means that this whole thing would be 46.77, but we aren't looking for the whole thing, we're just looking for c. So we know that 46.77 would equal to c over square root 3, and we can times square root 3 on both sides. So we'll get c is equal to 81, and if we look at our answer choices, it looks like c would be correct, which is 81. Right triangles ABC and XYZ are similar, where A and B correspond to X and Y, respectively. Angle B has a measure of 33 degrees. What is the measure of the acute angle Z? Remember, acute angle. So let's take a look at this. ABC is congruent to XYZ, and we know that A and B correspond to Y and Z. So let me draw that out. It corresponds to X, B corresponds to Y, and if these correspond to each other, then that means side length C would also be congruent to Z. And what we know is that angle B has a measure of 33 degrees, so that means B and Y are 33 degrees. So we have one of the angles, and we see that the measure of the acute angle is Z. Remember that these triangles are right angles, so right triangles. So if Z and Z are acute angles, then that means A and Z are right angles, which is 90 degrees. So we know what A and X are. A and X would be 90. B and Y, as we already stated, is 33. We just have to find out what C and Z are, but we are specifically looking for Z, even though they're the same. So 180 minus what's 90 plus 33, that's 123, and that'd be 57. So that means angle Z is equal to 57.